GM Farcaster. It is Tuesday, April 23rd. I had to double check. You are here with Adrienne and Anish Prof for 21 minutes of Farcaster news-ish to start your day. And we have two very special guests. And I need to, I just realized the GM Farcaster thing is hiding Cameron's name. So we got to get rid of that. We have Grin and Cameron here with us. Cameron's on the fly. So he looks just like his PFP. It's so weird. Most people don't. It looks just
I didn't know
like
Cameron was full and on.
He's full on now.
Yeah, that's true.
No one ever sees him on camera. He's very, very private that way. So we're so excited. We're going to chat about last year's FarCon, and then we'll roll into a few announcements and fun things at the end of the show. But we want to start with just kind of reliving what happened last year as we roll into this new one coming up this year. And I want to start with, hold on one second. This was the official announcement last year of FarCon. And it does say, you asked for it, you got it. Announcing FarCon, the unauthorized Farcaster conference, TLDR, 100 of us together for a weekend in Boston this summer. Deets below. And then what? A weekend with your favorite casters. Meet your mutuals, hack on stuff, just vibe, learn from each other, enjoy the city. Agenda is open. We want to co-create this with you. Who's behind this? Grin, Cameron, and all of you. FarCon is an unconference, sufficiently decentralized. It'll be whatever you make of it. Success is largely up to you. We provide the container, the space, some food, lodging, general coordination. You fill it in with your presence, ideas, and energy. And I want to dive into how this all came together. Where did the idea come from? And how did you go about organizing this? And it actually ended up being a little bit smaller, right? I think we ended up having like 70 in the end. But Grin or Cameron, whoever wants to start this off, how did this idea come to you and then like develop into what it became?
Well, I mean, I think if I recall correctly, Grin, you were the one that was the impetus of pretty much the, hey, we should do this, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about this before the show. I think you were on a plane or maybe at an airport, and you casted something like, I haven't slept in forever. I'm like 2 beers in, and I was like, oh, this is a great time. I have this idea. We should talk about this idea. And do you remember this? What happened?
I remember us having the conversation, but not the context of it.
Okay. Yeah, it was something like that. And I was like, hey, I have a wild and crazy idea to pitch you. And you were like, yeah, let's talk about it. And then we talked about doing FarCon. We talked about how it would be great if all our friends came to us because people don't come to Boston that often.
Yes.
And then you were like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And then we did it. Yeah. I mean, the magic of like decentralization is we actually don't know how many people came to the first FarCon.
Yeah, that's true.
Somewhere between 60 and 90.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I thought it was about 70. I always say 70-ish. It was around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cozy. It was a nice little cozy unconference. And what's really funny is when I hear people talking about today, like the one coming up next week, and they keep sending messages to Dan, or you'll see them ask him questions. So they're like, you guys really don't get this. You're really not quite getting this, how this works.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine the admin confusion for the next one. It's gonna be insane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you're kind of planning this out, get this spot. It's a beautiful like location, has a nice little outside area, all these things. And then you start thinking about programming. So how did you come up with some of those ideas, and talk a little bit about what went down in terms of lightning talks and things like that, and how you pulled those ideas together?
I mean, to be honest, like before we even got to the programming portion, there was like a big, I would say a pretty harrowing journey of like getting people to believe that it was going to happen.
Talk a little bit about that. So what did you have to do to kind of get people on board and actually make this happen, come together, fund it? How did you fund it? I know the answers, but I want to hear from you guys.
I mean, so we basically made FarCon like as a bet, right? Because we did all the good founder stuff and did user interviews and figured out what people thought they might pay for it, and then we launched at like a roughly, I still think, reasonable price point, and it just like fully flopped. I think like Jamie Hoffman and like a couple other people actually bought tickets, but like nobody else did. But Grin, what do you remember about that? Like, I think it was a 48-hour period where we like relaunched everything.
Yeah, I remember feeling really shitty about it. And but also I remember, so we launched it kind of in the morning and nobody bought tickets for a while, and then I think we got on a call, it was either that night or like the next day, and both of us were both like, man, that really sucks. And at the same time, like, we know people want this. Maybe they don't want exactly what we're doing, maybe they don't want it at this price, maybe they don't want it in this location, but we know people want it. So let's get over how shitty it feels and figure out how we're going to continue to try and make it happen. Which was really cool for me to like, I didn't know Cameron that well before we were doing this, and he didn't know me. And so knowing that we were like in this together, even though it felt like, we just got up and got punched in the face, was really cool. And actually big props to Cameron. So at the time I was like, well, people don't want to come to Boston. We should try and move it to LA. And Cameron was like, well, maybe that's not it. Maybe it's more about how much money or whatever. And so first, let's see if we can just drop ticket prices. And so that's what we did. And he announced it like the next day or the day after. He was like, man, that really sucks. Like, we want your feedback. He wrote a really nice post about it. People gave us feedback, and we were like, all right, well, we'll just, we already put down a deposit on the place. We have to do it. So we're doing it. It's going to be $20. Like, who's in? And that's when people are like, all right, I'm coming.
Well, then you also get some people who are buying tickets even if they can't come because they want to support it. Like, even if they're like, I can't come to Boston at that time, but I want to support this, then they can at least like throw their hat in the ring, grab the NFT. That's the other thing. When did the NFT part of it, I think, help with that aspect where you had Oxen creating, these kind of cool generative art pieces that I think were, some people just wanted it for that. And I think that made it a little easier too. Cameron, did you have that sense as well? Or like,
so people wanting to support us actually kind of started screwing us in the beginning because we didn't really plan. Well, we didn't like plan for that tier. So we only minted like I believe the 100 actual ticket NFTs themselves. And so, or we only had 100 available. And so Oxen had done all this work ahead of time, so huge shout out to him. But basically, once we saw that people wanted to support, even though they couldn't come, that was when we were like, oh shit, we probably should have a supporter, tier. And so like he took some of his some of the art that like he wanted to use for something, but not necessarily for the explicit tickets, and it was a perfect fit for that.
And then you had Purple come in. I don't know when exactly that happened. With some support, and then that brought me in with BuilderDAO to give a little bit of extra support there too. So it basically was a crowd-funded conference or unconference. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like once there was a little bit of momentum and people started minting tickets and being like, oh yeah, maybe I will come up to Boston. That was when it kind of like became clear to people that like, oh, this could be a thing that will happen. And then like it's kind of with all this kind of stuff, it's chicken or the egg. Like once it starts, people want to be part of like something that seems like it's going to win is kind of the energy that I took from it.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
I'll always be grateful to the people who like helped get it started, right? Like you, like Johnny with Fabric, that was a big part of it.
100%.
And like Jamie, right? Jamie minted the first ticket, and then like I don't even know if he came.
Shout out Jamie.
but
I don't think he did he?
I don't think Jamie.
He didn't come. Yeah,
but you're right. He wanted to support us, and like the people who kind of get it started always have a special place in my heart.
That's amazing. So let's move to the weekend itself. Let's talk about programming first. So you had a little different approach. It wasn't going to be your usual speakers and panels. Go ahead, Adrienne. jump in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just going back to the initial flop, and I think it's so funny to kind of go back because I remember being on the feed as it's happening, and what I find is somewhat interesting is kind of one, you put out and said who would potentially be interested, and you had like, you know, this classic stated preference versus revealed preference because everyone's like, yeah, I'll go, and then the NFT comes out and then nothing. So here you guys are saying like failure. I just remember for me, I didn't buy it right away, but part of this is like first thing, people don't know what they're signing up for. It doesn't mean I wouldn't have eventually done it, but I just loved, I mean, I was in awe of you guys just watching like how fast you were like, okay, we failed, but we're picking back up. Literally, it was like 48 hours later, here's a new ticket, and how quick you were. Like, I don't know if you, I mean, looking back, I don't even know if you needed to have done that. It's possible it could have still rallied people at the higher price point.
Maybe.
But just how quick it was like, we're trying again. And then kind of the momentum to ride the momentum. And it was just such a cool thing to witness.
I think that pivot is very entrepreneurial, right? It's an entrepreneurial kind of thing and you're both founders and have worked in that kind of space for a while. So I think that makes a lot of sense that you're going to do that. Okay, let's pivot this quick because we don't want to lose the momentum of all these people saying that they wanted to come. So it makes a lot of sense to me. But Grin, did you want to add to that?
Speaking of early support, Adrienne, I don't know when you reached out to us, but you were also like, hey, I want to help you guys with this. Like, what do you need? Do you need me to like show up? I can, you know, I check in, I can hand out whatever, t-shirts. So I appreciate that also. It was, you know, not just the online, but the in-person. And there were other people I'm also definitely, like the Woofy was part of it. Jack was part of them, people I'm forgetting. When did you reach out to us about that? Was it before tickets, after tickets?
I think it was just, I had reached out specifically about childcare, I think, just kind of asking if there was a need for childcare because I was going to be in Boston with my teenage kid. So I was like, oh, I'm coming in for her anyway. She'll be around. What is she going to do while I'm hanging out with my internet friends? I'm like, oh, maybe she can babysit. Hey, do you guys anyone need childcare? And then I think Cameron's like, oh, you know what? We haven't really considered any of that. And then Cameron invited me into the little planning group chat. And then, but I think some people, it's just if you understand the permissionless nature of things, it's like, how can you kind of jump in, offer help,
right,
but not push yourself, you know, not force yourself in places, but be willing to help it was
right. Yeah, for sure. And I remember seeing you at the, you know, greeting and helping and checking people in and things like that. And that's, I think, when I first met you in the, but we'll get to that part.
I was handing out swag.
You were handing out swag.
So
and I was bringing swag in, of course, because, you know, that's what I do. Because that was part of what Builder funded as well, was some swag, some pins and bag, you know, and we had noggles, the paper noggles. By the way, I have different noggles this year. Wait till you see those. I'll reveal those in just a moment. So let's jump to lightning talks, panels, thinking about programming. What is this going to look like? And you were really thinking about it as an unconference. We don't want this to be the typical, you know, people pay to be a speaker and the only people in the room are speakers and that kind of thing. So like we see at some of these other larger ones. So how did that, like when you were thinking about that, how did you come up with that plan of lightning talks and things like that?
On my end, like I don't think, like I'm gonna remember this for forever, but Grin was basically just like, hey, no matter what we do, like what people want is to hang out with each other with other Farcasters. And if we get them in one spot and we give them kind of like the space to do interesting things, like it'll work out. And that's not really my like approach or like style for making things happen. But like Grin has been doing these events for a minute, and like that's kind of like the overarching philosophy that I tried to embrace from Grin with all of the planning.
And Grin, I think you have a little bit more background too on that with that URL to IRL approach of like getting people who've met on the internet together, and that, you know, that's network state in a nutshell right there, of, you know, bringing them to, you know, the in-person or not, or at least mimicking it in some way if it's virtual. So that probably that makes sense how you would be thinking like that. Like, we just need to get these people in a room. And then how did we get to panel? Like, we did have one panel. I know that was me like saying, hey, can we do a panel on DAOs? And then you threw Johnny on it just for, shits and giggles, to make it spicy. We spiced up that panel very easily. Still waiting, Cameron, for that video anytime now. 11 months later.
I know. I got to be honest. I've had a reminder every 2 weeks that I've snoozed for 2 weeks since last FarCon.
It's only been 11 months. It's okay. And I knew that was going to happen. That's so funny. You knew coming on here that I was going to ask that question too. But I know that there was, I believe it was, was it Paragraph or no, it was Purple who sponsored a prop house for the lightning talks, if I'm correct here. And that was definitely a different approach to programming, because usually that's not the way these things come together. If you've ever done a conference before, a lot of times you're starting with speakers and you're thinking about keynotes and you're thinking about all these things. And that was definitely sort of flipped on its head, where really those who were attending or, supporting in terms of members of Purple were really making the choice on, this is what we want to hear. And people put it out like, here's my idea, do you want to hear this? And I think that was a very different approach to this. So can you talk a little bit about that decision and how that came about? And then let's talk a little bit about some of those talks as well.
Yeah. Well, you kind of read it, right? When you showed the initial series of casts, we said it there, right? We're doing the container. You guys are doing the talks and the events and whatever else happens inside. And yeah, well, I mean, like Cameron said, yeah.
Did the prop house come from an idea from Purple, or was it one of you, or how did that come about?
I think pretty much anything activation energy or coordination energy related was basically either from Grin or me, or from the a person that we added to the group chat, which like eventually just kind of grew like delightfully pretty big. And like I also think like the reason why I get why it's like not normal, but it made a lot of sense for Farcaster at the time, because it was a place where like there wasn't a ton of value capture yet. Like, everybody that was in the feed was genuinely in the feed because they wanted to hang out with other casters. And so like, it's a lot easier to say, hey, like, what do y'all want to talk about? Who wants to talk about something? Especially along with like the essay contest with Seymour and whatever, like that worked better because there wasn't a big incentive for somebody to try to sell to a bunch of people on Farcaster, because there wasn't a bunch of people on Farcaster.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not long after that. Yeah, no one was selling anything. I mean, and we're still like at that point, 4 or 5, maybe 6 months away from even the permissionless. And so at that point, when that token goes out, there's 938 active, right? That means you have 100 followers and you're casting at a regular basis. So, I mean, that's pretty hilarious. So you think about this is 10% of that group essentially coming together. So let's, can you talk a little bit more, Cameron, if you're able? I'm not sure when we're going to lose you here, but the Seymour essay contest and how that came about and what that was, so that people know what that was. Oop, we might have lost him. Oh, there he is. Oh.
No, I'm here.
Can you?
Awesome. So the essay contest is really a. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
The essay contest kind of came out of the iteration of what my startup was at that time, which was much more focused on trying to like help creators do more, create better work, do faster, like create faster. And that was all mostly oriented around writers. So like from a startup perspective, I was like, oh, this is a thing that I want to see more of anyway. And it kind of fits with what we're doing. And it was an excuse to kind of use, to like leverage Purple for what it's like supposed to be for, which is supporting builders and creators on Farcaster. And FarCon was kind of like this right place, right time, right vessel to get those ideas out there, I think.
And some of those essays are really amazing. So I know they live somewhere. We should probably recast that because I think some of them would resonate now. It'd be interesting to look back on those.
Yeah, the page is still there on the Say More website. Most of the Say More website doesn't work anymore, but that page does. But I'll try to find that when I'm back at my machine, actually.
Awesome. That would be great. I'd love to go revisit some of those. So then we had some amazing lightning talks. So for me, the ones that I remember to this day in this moment right now, I obviously remember, Dan talking. I remember the purple jacket from Les, and the Rish's talk, which was like 5 different things in one. And it was amazing. And I was just like, who is this guy? And like, can I live in his brain for a minute? Because this is incredible. And this is Rish from Nanar. And he was like, that was just launching and he was just leaving Coinbase and Base wasn't out yet. Let's remember that for a moment. So he was talking about Base that was launching a couple months later. So that was amazing. So all these things. And then I remember, of course, Adrienne's Scenius talk was the one that like I think about probably most often.
Yeah, my favorite out of the whole essay contest for sure.
Yeah, so that to me was amazing. So that's really nice to hear. So Adrienne, do you want to talk about like that real quick about like how that idea came to you and then what you're doing this year too? Like we can talk on that just real quick.
Sure. So I came into Farcaster and I kind of felt like I'm a rando. I wasn't deep into crypto, wasn't a developer, wasn't like, don't even ask how I found here. But then I came in and I just kind of found my people and found my space and was just so incredibly by builder energy, like everyone. Now I'm building things. I was building a company and writing and blogging and things, but you didn't necessarily have to be in this kind of crypto cult to get energy and bounce. So it's like everyone you're meeting are building something. Everyone was so quick to collaborate, help people out, jump onto Zooms. And it was a really, really special place and very, very much permissionless. So I was able to kind of come in with, like, again, kind of feeling like a complete outsider, but kind of break in and what I call infiltrate the Scenius. And I had, it wasn't the first Scenius I had infiltrated. So I was just recognizing patterns. And if you haven't read my blog or talk, and if you'll at FarCon, I'm going to do a follow-up Scenius talk. But the idea of Scenius is it's communal genius. So it throws out the idea of lone geniuses. So even Farcaster is not Dan Romero who lives, in Antarctica by himself with an idea for a decentralized social network, and he's the only genius. It's lots of people working on kind of maybe things that are somewhat tangential, but within a scene, and the entire scene buoys everybody up, and kind of it's a explosion of creativity, an explosion of innovation, and I just felt like that's what early Farcaster felt like. So
yeah, I think it was perfect. I had never heard of the term. I had never thought about it. And then as soon as you sort of pulled those concepts together for me between the essay and the lightning talk, I was like, wow, okay, I see this fully and I want to be a part of the scene, the Scenius. So it's something that's resonated. I think about it all the time. It always pops back into my head. And I'm really looking forward to sort of the follow-up on that. I think that's going to be really interesting. And then, for me, like obviously the DAO panel was big in that moment. And we had this moment where purple was splitting into purpler and there was all these like discussions about what this was supposed to be. So purpler, remember purpler?
I forgot about purpler.
It had just happened. So I was like, and I was, because of my role in Builder and as a community resident, I was like navigating that little split there and trying to walk that line. And it was a lot of fun to do that, but and to have those conversations. So that to me was a lot of fun, but mostly like the Scenius one was the one that really stuck with me. But there were so many cool things. So I love that, it was, you had this programming, but it was also short. It was bite-sized. It wasn't an hour-long panel discussion. It was, 15 minutes, boom. and then, move on. Even our panel, I think, was 20 minutes. It wasn't like we didn't, have these sort of things that drowned on. And you also had spaces where people could go and do their own thing. If they were like, I'm not really interested in this, and they could go outside and do their own thing and chat and connect. And I think for me, that was just as important, was those, the dinner afterwards where we just randomly went somewhere and talked and really connected with people. And it was very different from any other conference or networking event or anything I had been to, because you didn't start from zero. We weren't talking about the weather. We weren't talking about, it was very deep, meaningful conversations. And that to me was Farcaster in a nutshell, right? So you didn't start at zero, you started at 1 or 10 or, sometimes 90 and jumped right in. And I think that was what made it very special. And I'm really hoping that we see that again. But for me, and I've said this to both of you as a thank you multiple times, but I'm going to say it one more time while I have you in front of me. FarCon literally changed my life. Like, I switched a whole bunch of things after that experience. On the plane, I started writing again. So that happened on the plane back home. And then it turned into this idea that I had of like, well, how can I contribute to this crazy Scenius? And my idea was, well, I could do some sort of stream, some sort of podcast. And I was Cameron was streaming FarCon to Unlonely. And I'm like, I really should dig into that a little more. But originally I was thinking something completely different and nouns focused. And this in FarCon switched my thinking to, I want to do something about Farcaster. So, and I met Adrienne at FarCon and spent some time with her and chatting with her. And I was like, okay. And Stephanie too. Stephanie Galazio was the other person we originally started this with. So it changed my whole thinking and it changed my focus. And now I'm going to be doing this full time. Like, I'm leaving my job. So that's in 11 months. I went from like, hey, I'm going to go to this unconference in Boston, which I'm from the area. So that was the other reason it was like, I want to go to Boston. So that was an easy one for me. And
Prof, did you hear Mike Rainbow
upending my whole entire life. Yes.
Did you hear Mike Rainbow is also from wherever?
Yes. Yeah, we chatted. About that. Yeah, we're all from. Yeah, it's where all the good people are from. It's just saying.
It's a whole. It's a whole scene.
It's a whole scene. It's a whole thing. We're all from there. A lot of us leave because the weather sucks, but the people are amazing. So it literally, like, FarCon completely changed my life. Farcaster also is, obviously is part of that, but it really is, to me, that experience of taking what I was feeling online and experiencing it in person sort of connected all those dots and made it very real for me to realize these people are real. They're not just PFPs. They are human beings and they're real. And I needed to dive in and invest more time there. So thank you both for that. I appreciate you very much for that. And I can't wait to see both of you next week. So what, for you, thinking back, almost a year later, what has been the impact, do you think, of this first one? And also, what are you hoping to see next week from this, version 2? You called FarCon last year the beta. So now this is, now we're here, right? This is season 1 as opposed to season 0. So what are you taking from that first, and what do you hope to see next week?
Yeah, I like that you call it like season 1, because my hope for all of FarCon is that it is this decentralized thing that's run by a different team every year, and so FarCon's going to be different every year. I'm hoping there's like some continuity in the spirit and in the values, but yeah, it is going to be different. It's like if a different director, directs every season of a show. And I think the shows that do this, right, and the seasons feel different. Or like if Tarantino did the first movie and then he's like, well, I'm not going to do the second one, but like Christopher Nolan wants to do it. And on the one hand, it's like, oh, holy shit, Christopher Nolan's doing it. Like, that's awesome. But on the other hand, it's not going to feel exactly like a Tarantino movie. And I think that's cool. I think that keeps, new energy, new ideas going. Like, it's hard to kind of run the same thing with the same team for a long period of time. So yeah, Cameron and I have both been like pretty hands off this year. We've been like advising where they want us to, but we don't want to like push our ideas on Ted and McBain, and I think they've put in a ton of work. They've it's going to be way bigger than ours was. It's going to be the way that our FarCon captured that moment on Farcaster. I think their FarCon is aiming to capture this moment on Farcaster. So yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to get the same kind of cozy feeling that you were talking about at the first FarCon. If Cam and I were doing the one this year, we would have done it differently. But in many ways, it's great that we didn't do it because it would have been like some of the things that they're doing, we probably wouldn't even thought of doing.
Yeah, I think Grin really nailed it in that life's about seasons. I think Farcaster is going through some interesting seasons that it's ultimately all really good, and I think this conference is actually a really good reflection of what we think the Farcaster protocol and the Warpcast client and all the other alt clients that are starting to proliferate out there. It's a really, I think, good example of what it could be in a legitimate player on the internet and kind of changing how we interact with the internet. I think the through line of the people are the most important thing, I think, is coming through. And hopefully that's the thing that goes from conference to conference, because who knows what the hype about Farcaster is going to be in 12 months and 6 months, whatever. And I don't think anyone on this call particularly cares, other than knowing it's important for the longevity of the protocol for it to be popular. But it's going to be a great opportunity to reconnect with people, meet a bunch of new people who are hyped about Farcaster, which is exciting. And I'm personally stoked to head out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's gonna be awesome. Like you said, right? It's just about getting if the people come together and they get to hang out with each other and they get to do stuff like go surfing, go play football with each other, listen to their friends give talks about things that they care about. I think it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
So when I talked early on with the team, I talked to them and I was like, well, how can I help? I don't want to I don't want to do the day-to-day stuff, and I want you to have the creative freedom to do what you want, but how can I help? And Graham was like, okay, well, the mission I'm giving you is to think about the future of FarCon. What is FarCon 3 and 4 and 5 going to look like? And so that's what I've been spending my time thinking about. How can we make this a thing with FarCon 10? And it's, still awesome, and people are still psyched about it.
That's really interesting. And I'd love to hear more what you're thinking, but also I kind of don't want to hear more what you're thinking. I want to be, there's a little part of me that wants to be surprised, you know what I mean? And just see how it plays out. And I also don't think I can think past next week right now because my brain is exploding for what I'm trying to do and all those things. So last year,
Farcaster 100.
Right, exactly. I'll be dead by then. Let's be honest. Come on, longevity, but come on.
Our 100 GM.
Yeah, your 100.
GM Farcaster.
Our 100.
Yeah.
GM Farcaster 100. Yes, I thought you meant FarCon 100.
You guys are on. This is episode 90 freaking 4.
94. Wow. 94. Yes, it's incredible. So last year, I obviously had the noggles, the paper noggles for everybody, and then I had these for you all, for the team. I had the red ones. So wait a minute, though, Grin. This year, I have these for everybody. I have purple noggles, sunglasses for everyone. So yeah, we stepped it up. So I had these custom made.
Well, if you need a photo, for later.
Oh yeah, we definitely need this. So I'm excited to get these to everybody. Because last year when I showed up with swag, that was the thing that everybody wanted, and I only had 10 of them. And I was like, nope, sorry, you can't have these. So this year I'm coming with enough for the whole class. So I'm excited to do that and be there, and I'm really excited for episode 100. With Dan and Varun. That's going to be amazing. We do have a couple quick housekeeping things for this from Grin. This was hilarious, by the way, to be clear. So, all right. So there was a group chat with the summit passes, and then those were extended, and then people couldn't get in that group chat because you can only have one link, one NFT, token gating it. So Grin issued a new collection. So everyone can now join the existing FarCon GC. I made a single collection of all FarCon ticket holders to token gate against it. So then he had to clarify, to be clear, send every FarCon ticket holder a new NFT for the existing group chat that everyone's been joining. We needed this because GCs can only be gated with a single token, and FarCon has 3 different tokens for 3 different ticket types. But what was really funny was that like we're all like trying to rejoin the chat that we're already in. It was like chaos.
I'm sorry. I could have made it clearer.
So funny.
And like they're you know, you only have so much space. So yes, there's one true. GC that everyone's in, and now there's one token that hopefully gets you in. But even there, you have to go to OpenSea. You have to unhide it because OpenSea hides things that get airdropped, and because Warpcast looks at the OpenSea API, not the on-chain data. Come on, guys. I thought we were an on-chain kind of thing.
Wait. This, I'm so glad you just said this, Grin, because that's why I love the show. I get so much smarter. For the life of me, I could never understand why someone says to me, go to OpenSea and unhide. I'm like, yeah, but it's an NFT and it's a decentralized data store. What does OpenSea have to do with anything? It's because OpenSea has APIs.
Yeah, and it's because of spam. Like people get airdrop shit all the time. And so actually this thing where if you didn't interact with it, it's not shown, it actually makes a lot of sense for OpenSea. But then if you're using their API to check if they have the NFT and it's hidden and it says no, when really the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's because of the way that Warpcast is doing the group chats. If you're token gating it, it's using OpenSea to do that. So that's why you don't always have to unhide, but in this case you did.
All right, that was really helpful because I'm looking on in my Rainbow wallet. That's what I tend to look at.
Right.
There was also a cast, and I don't know if you're planning on sharing this, about kind of like last chance to claim your ticket if you haven't yet, like a summit pass. So I checked my wallet last night, and guess who does not have a summit pass?
How do you not?
Me.
Did you find it though?
It's not showing up. I'm like, but I'm in the group. Like, Grin, you dropped me like the parent group chat. Like I know it's there. I remember doing it. Couldn't find it. Someone sent me the OpenSea collection. So that has 300 some people. I'm quickly scanning for my ENS name. Can't find it. I'm like, I guess I don't have a ticket. So then
I know you do.
So then I go to try to rebuy a ticket. Then I try to rebuy a ticket and I connected my wallet and it says you already have it. So it is in my wallet. It is not showing up it's not showing up in the collection. Eventually I literally got out of bed last night. I'm like, I don't want to miss FarCon. Go to my laptop to like pull up on my desktop for like a big view. Connected to OpenSea and it said, and I filtered the collection and it says you own one.
It was just hiding. It was hiding.
Oh, where the F is it? Because it's not in my.
It's in there. It's in there.
Anyway,
that's so funny. They would have let you in.
I hate you, blockchain. I hate being early. It's not worth it. It's not even that good. Okay.
Great. That's great. I'm really glad we're doing a show that's all about on-chain media.
Wake me up. I'm going to go freeze my body. Wake me up in 10 years.
That's awesome.
I'm done.
That's so funny. Somebody help her, please. And speaking of, hey, Adrienne,
thank you.
I did want to mention this. This is Adrienne. I'm working on my lightning talk for FarCon and crowdsourcing some material. If you are building a Farcaster client, Farcaster themed podcaster newsletter, Farcaster token, Farcaster tool, can you reply or DM with the name of what you're building, an image, logo, and the category? So please definitely drop that here so that she can compile that information. And that's going to be super useful. So I'm glad to see you.
And there's going to be a 6th slide. I'm just saying.
I saw that. I see that. Look at that. There we go.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those guys. So
yeah, you've really gotten into hire. That's been like very interesting. Yeah. Changed your PFP to Optimist, I noticed.
Yeah, I've been playing around with changing my PFP. Like I used to be like, oh, it's just a wizard. I'll have the wizard everywhere. But yeah, I like hire. There's actually a lot of overlap with like the hire vibe and the cabin vibe. So I've really been enjoying what they're doing. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll play around. And
do you want to talk a little bit about the Pioneer brunch that you're hosting? You're hosting a little lunch
I am.
on Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
What's that all about?
FarCon. It's like an hour. Oh, sorry, not an hour. It's like a mile from the main venue. It's more in Santa Monica. Actually, if you go on Google Maps, it's the place where Vault 33 from Fallout is supposed to be.
That's so crazy.
But it's a lunch for people who are interested in, building new institutions in society, whether it's like things like FarCon or network states, or network states have like now kind of swallowed the vibe from DAOs a few years ago, or like all the social DAOs, right? They're kind of like now in the network states. And yeah, just a way for us to get together, to get to know each other a little better, to have some food, which should be good, and to hang out, spend some time, talk about how we're going to build the future.
Amazing. And I'm hoping to get there. I am scheduled to get there, but we had one other thing pop up, but we're going to try and make both things happen. And Adrienne's, we're dividing and conquering. She'll definitely be there. So I do want to mention this too. I mentioned this before at the beginning. GM Farcaster Happy Hour at FarCon is happening. Very excited. So if you have a wowow or mole, if you're a wowow or mole subscriber, you can go register for this. There is a RSVP frame in the next cast below this one. We'll have this in the show notes, and excited to see everyone. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to thank our supporters too. We have some gifts. We have some things. Of course, I have gifts. I have these for everybody, and then I have special things for Mole and Hypersub. So you'll see, but I'm very excited for next week. We're going to wrap there. Thank you so much, Grin, for popping in. I'm super excited to see you next week. I'm so grateful you and Cameron sort of went on this journey of starting the first one, and excited for the second one, and then the next 100 of them, I guess we're going. So, like I said, I don't think I'll make it to FarCon 100, but we'll see. It depends on how quick we decide to ramp those up. But I'm excited. I'm definitely excited for I guess I'm calling this season 1. I think last was season 0. It was the pilot. It was the pilot episode. And now we're in season 1, and we'll see how this all goes. Oh, look at that. Best? I do have that.
I do. Somewhere. It's right in this drawer right here.
I keep it. So this is the challenge coin from FarCon 1, and it does say FarCon the beta.
The beta. Yeah. The beta.
I've been now we are making some of these for this year too.
You should.
Not challenge coins, more like I have these chips I got from that are like basically a wallet. And so you can do this online offline thing. It can't be metal like those challenge coins. It has to be either clay or epoxy or something. I've been talking to Max Jackson about doing a version for this year, but we haven't gotten around to doing it. And time's running out, so we'll see.
You've got a week.
I just love how much. Yeah, I just also love how much is still being planned and conceptualized for next week. Everyone is,
everyone's right, because we're all so busy, and this is like we need the deadline. We need the deadline to really push it. I think that's what happens.
It was the same last year. Everybody was like, at the last minute, people are launching features. People were like, oh my God, everyone is doing stuff. Like, what am I going to contribute? And I love that feeling. It's one of my favorite parts of these events.
Yeah. And I mean, I have like a list of things that I'm trying to pull together before FarCon so we can announce certain things at our 100th episode. So it's like, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in this next week, and I have to grade all my papers. So there's that. So really excited. I can't wait to see you next week. I do have one really important question for you. Are you bringing the top hat?
Of course. Yeah. I also tried to get a higher hat, but I don't know if it's going to be here in time. So.
Ooh, interesting. I may have.
What is a higher hat? Just a cap with a logo on it?
It has an arrow and it says higher. It's I think Jacopo and other people are experimenting with this open brand, headless brand thing where anybody can just make higher branded gear. Like there's people working on higher branded Air Force Ones, which is pretty cool. And so he was
CC0, baby. Yeah, that's right. You got to remember who's behind hire. It all makes sense. You got to remember who those folks are. I know them well. They're from the.
There may be some higher tattoo.
I know them well.
Maybe some higher tattooing.
Adrienne, are we doing it
at FarCon?
Are you getting the tattoo? Are you going to get a tattoo?
No. We'll see. If it looks good, if they make it look good, I already got one. You like break the seal, then you can just get 1 million.
I don't know, Adrienne. I don't know if I see this on you. We'll see.
It's not happening.
I am
No?
definitely,
Like a little
I'm
up
definitely getting a tattoo. I'm not getting hired, but I'm definitely getting a tattoo. So I'm excited, and we're going to call it there. And by the way, I may or may not have purchased some top hats, Adrienne, by the way. Various kinds. I did buy, Jacek mentioned he wanted one. I love that one. It's a crazy. So I may have purchased him a couple of top hats options, and I may have purchased us a couple of top hat options. Maybe we'll reveal. Maybe I might do a little sneak peek on Thursday. So Thursday we are going to be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. for our regular show with all the regular news. There wasn't much happening today, so I didn't bother. We're just throwing it all tomorrow, and then FarCon's more important. And then Thursday, we're on with the team for this year's FarCon. So we've got Ted McBain, heavyweight. I think Dilstack is going to be with us too, talking about FarHack. So that is Thursday at 11:30 a.m., 8:30 Pacific time, because we had to accommodate the West Coast LA team. And then we'll be back Friday as well for 8:30 a.m. Eastern. So thank you, Grin. Anything else you want to mention before we call it today? Or Adrienne, anything I forgot?
I would say that like having been in the Telegram chat, watching the team for this year work, they've put in so much work, and so if you see them, you should thank them. You'll don't get to see, just get to see the end result, and it's going to be amazing, but you don't get to see like all of the hustle that went into it. So thank you.
It's so much work. It's so much work.
Thank
And
you.
it's funny because I remember last year you and Cameron looking at me and like, maybe you should do it next year. Like, I used to be an event planner and I've done conferences before, and I'm like, I don't think so, because I knew how much work goes into it. So yes, I've been continuously saying thank you to that team all the time, but definitely I'll be buying them some drinks as well. So very excited. Adrienne, anything before we wrap?
Just Grin, thank you. And Cameron, I'm sorry we lost you with lack of battery. But yeah, we knew we were going to lose you. But just thank you to both of you for the genesis and it was such a good. I enjoyed hanging out today. It's just fascinating to me because I remember where we were a year ago. Yeah. So it's we're in such a different place. So it's really good to kind of revisit the original kind of thoughts behind FarCon, because I think it's easy to get ahead of ourselves and think like, oh, we've made it. Hey, Grin, hey, Ted, hey, McBain, like I'm just going to sit back and relax and let you give me a fantastic experience. But such a good reminder that they are organizing it, but it is still an unconference, and people who either didn't go to the first one, just really come and be ready to roll up your sleeves and put in some work to make this FarCon as good as last year's, and hopefully even as big as it gets for FarCon 100, that we don't lose that kind of the community. So
yeah,
I think I was going to say, I think for Farcaster and FarCon, I think the concept of, ask not what FarCon can do for you, but ask what you can do for FarCon is a good way to go into this, of like, what are you contributing to this? Not just what are you taking from it? And you'll get more out of it.
Yeah,
100%. You'll have more fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you were at the first one, bring some of that spirit with you, and to show the new people how it's done.
Amazing. All right, and with that, we will see you tomorrow, and at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And with that, bye bye.